Hey guys, I don't know if you know, but apparently there are no heroes or villains in The Last of Us Part 2. Now, this is coming from co-writer Halley Gross, and as soon as I saw this article, I was like, what is she talking about? And so we're going to go into detail reading over this. I'm not going to read the whole thing, obviously, but we definitely need to take a look and see what their point of view is. Like, even here, let's start in with this sentence. They're describing the gameplay, and then the writer says, I guide her through every moment of it, wondering if I'm doing the right thing. Because the main protagonist is not the good guy now, they're just another fighter in the war. There's no good or bad, apparently. Well, there's not no good or bad. There's no hero or villain, as they say. Everyone's horrible. Violence begets violence, yada, yada, yada. Like, this cycle of violence and empathy, like yin and yang, so to speak, between being aggressive and being violent and then being sympathetic to someone's causes is apparently a new thought for them, a new observation for them, or something that they feel waters down the game itself into a bunch of haves and have-nots and things like that. Let's read a little bit of this. All right. We also talked about the game's persistent theme of guilt and remorse, especially the decision to humanize Ellie's opponents. Every enemy has an in-game name, and her cohorts will shout out in horror when Ellie deals a deadly blow. It's hard to hear for me to hear over and over. So, trigger warning, I guess. You're playing a violent video game, but this upsets you. This is part of the problem. People do not understand that video games are video games. They're art, they're a media, there's something to consume. Obviously, when you're looking at this stuff and playing this stuff, you're going to have emotional reactions. That's a good thing. You're going to get, well, not jacked up, you're going to get excited and have adrenaline rushes from dealing with difficult parts of the game, from having story beats affect you in a specific way, but it's not something that you carry into your real life, not something that modifies your actual personal ideals and your personal convictions. But they're talking about this like this is something that, oh my God, we've discovered this thing and it's going to rock your world. It's like, no, this is how all video games work. Like, there's been a definite there's been a very bizarre disconnect with this game and its devs that I've seen, like interviews talking about how, oh, we've done the impossible with Ellie here. She can now jump and climb. It's like, oh my God, it's just so bizarre to watch this all unfold, and we're getting closer to the release date, guys. It's less than a month now. It's like 2 weeks in a bit. So it's like, oh my God. And these 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 articles just keep coming. Okay, so let's talk about a section of the game they reviewed in preview. In this section of the game, Ellie must either sneak or murder her way through an area full of Seraphites, members of a mysterious cult-like group that has emerged as one of the roving factions in the post-apocalyptic hellscape that Ellie traverses. Technically, it's Seattle, or it used to be. The WLF is another antagonistic faction in this game. My colleague Russ Frushtick went up against them in some prior preview footage. They're militarist preppers, some of whom have trained combat dogs, and you'll have to either avoid or, to my chagrin, kill. To my chagrin? To my chagrin. This person does not play video games. This person does not play video games. Oh my god, I might kill some faction member. Like, who cares? It's part of the story of the game. It's part of the gameplay. It's part of the follow through, part of the getting from A to B in the story of the game. Killing people. Oh my goodness. It's just a video game. What is this? When asked about real life inspirations for the two factions in the game, Gross pointed out that co writer Neil Druckmann is actually from the West Bank, and he is obviously very much interested in talking about what sort of entrenched conflict, that sort of entrenched conflict. So a lot of themes came from him wanting to tell that story. No, no. Mm, Naughty Dog is meticulous in the research and in trying to make this game feel as grounded and authentic as possible, as much as we're living in a hyperbolic world. Shouldn't video games that are in the real world technically be authentic in some way? Here's more about the factions. For us, and for her too, they are an obstacle to get through, or to get around, or to get past, said Gross. But we want in these moments to feel the humanizing aspects coming in, bleeding in, and as you progress through the game, those factions will become more and more expounded on, till hopefully they all feel fully realized. That's good. That's good storytelling if you can actually get that done in a game. It's nothing wrong with that. All right. We're always going back to this conversation about the cycle of violence and empathy. So what we wanted was to have in that very aspect of so so what we wanted was to have that in every aspect of this game. So you pick up a note and it's going to be a conversation about how the cycle of violence is escalation. We wanted Seattle to very much represent that escalating and almost impossible to stop freight train of vengeance. So you've got these two factions who very much believe that they're doing what they're doing, believe they're doing what's right. Ellie believes that what she's doing is also right. She has found family to protect back in Jackson after all. What we care about, what we really wanted to elucidate in this game, it's high level words. All right, is that there are no heroes or villains, said Gross. There is no black or white. So even as Ellie is going through Seattle and she sees these enemies, they're much more complicated than her superficial interactions with them would necessarily elucidate. Why? She said it twice in the same sentence? I mean, it's a good word. It's a very, very top god tier word to use, but using it that much and superficial. Even the worst of people have motivations for their actions, have a history, have a background. So pretending like this makes someone neither good nor bad, or just a slight a shade of gray, so to speak, of that particular facet is not servicing the game at all. It's basically taking all of the people in the game and elevating to a position where they don't belong. Like it's great if you want to have different factions fighting against each other and talking about their own personal plights and issues, things like that. But it has to center around the motivation for the group. Otherwise, they wouldn't be part of that group. So trying to make them into like this kind of shade of gray on both sides when one's a self-professed cult is not is not helpful. It doesn't contribute to gameplay. It actually detracts from it, making making things less clear and muddy is part of life, but it's not part of this video game thing. It's they don't understand. They don't understand. Oh, here's a good line. Yeah, this is some discussing about if the concerns about focusing less on Joel and more on Ellie. Hopefully, even if you are not a 19-year-old lesbian, you're still seeing parts of Ellie and parts of her decision making that resonate with you. What we're trying to do is that, as you're with Ellie in these moment to moment decisions, watching these cinematics and discovering all the weight on her, that even if you don't empathize with her decisions, even if you don't agree with them, you understand why she feels that she has to do it or feels she can't stop herself from doing something. Can't stop herself? Oh my. Yeah. So being not a 19-year-old lesbian myself, I can definitely agree that I don't have to be one to understand what's going on in a story or in a character's motivations. They should have nothing to do with those things. They should have 0% to do with the fact that it's a 19-year-old lesbian. But I digress. I digress. So I want to start at the bottom, guys. This just it just goes on, and I'm really beginning to think that there's nothing else I can say about this. Oh, here we go. It's impossible in playing The Last of Us Part 2 to not think about the real life pandemic, let alone the real life violence and racist policing that has inspired protests from activists all over the United States and elsewhere in the world. I can't play a violent video game about a pandemic without about warring factions and about the times when violence turns out to be necessary. And I'll think about the world outside my door. I asked Gross how it felt to release a game like this during this time period, something I could never have foreseen. Right now, I think more than ever, we crave examples of resiliency, she said. And hopefully, with this game, you're seeing these characters who get knocked down by the world, who make mistakes, who make hard choices and continue to pick themselves back up and pick themselves, who make hard choices and continue to pick themselves up and pick themselves back up. And they are obviously evolved and changed from those choices and from those experiences. That's the whole article. That's where it stops. Never mind this making no sense. Maybe they just miscopied the line from the interview, but that has nothing to do with the question they're forming here. How does it feel to release this game? Oh, we need resiliency. Oh, we need to see people picking themselves back up. If I want to watch someone pick themselves back up over and over again, I'd watch Captain Marvel. But anyways, I digress. This is just such a bizarre article. Like, just because your your NPCs in your game have to have a backstory and have to have, you know, deliberate motivations, that means that they can't be good or bad. They can't be the heroes or the villains, because that would be good writing to actually create someone forcibly, or not forcibly, but organically show who's the hero and who's the villain in this. Like, even at the start, they basically, was it muddy the waters by basically saying, I wonder if I'm doing the right thing with this character in this game that I'm supposed to be playing. Am I the good guy? Yes, yes, you are the good guy. Get over it. Get over it. It's just, I had to show this to you guys today, guys. And I keep stumbling over my words, so I think it's about time to stop. I hope you enjoyed this video, my little rant, and I hope you have a great day. Bye for now.